the God honest truth is, like I said, over the last 3 or 4 years, that the SIAC, when I say that the level of competition has really stepped up, I mean, that's what I'm talking about, because like these SWAC teams, man, SWAC teams are falling left and right to the SIAC.
Well, we trying to get better to compete with the SWAC teams. We hadn't had that success that we were looking for facing the SWAC team, but that would come. That would come. Our kids understand the magnitude of playing the FCS, a larger opponent, and it's just a measuring stick for us. And the SWAC school, they're tough. So you just got to come ready to play and get your team ready to play when it comes to playing whoever.
Now, last week you got a big time win, in conference win against Fort Valley. Take us through that victory.
Well, it's on the road. First of all, I was on the road defending conference champs, and I was on the road there at their place. And Coach Porter's done a great job with that program, winning the conference his first year as head coach, and had a lot of returning guys from that team. And for us to go in there, like I say, I'm just proud of our young men, especially the defense. Those guys are a freshman group, but like I say, they're getting better and better and stronger every week. And that's all I ask as a coach, is they get better, not make the same mistake they made against a veteran Alcorn State team and a veteran West Georgia team. And, we showed spurts. We showed some spots that we could be a good defense at times in those games. And offensively, we moved the ball at times during those games, but we didn't capitalize on a lot of things that the defense gave us offensively, and we turned it over when we shouldn't have turned it over, and we didn't make the catches or the plays that we should have made, that we needed to make. But we just keep plugging along until the kids just keep chopping wood. Eventually something good will happen. Special team got better. Fort Valley game, we gave up 2 punt returns the first 2 games, not being in the lanes and not protecting, and so we definitely had to work that area. And then we come back in the Fort Valley game, and we had 4 touchbacks. And and return was pretty much corralled a little bit, and we did give up a touchdown on a return. So we would definitely change that and corrected that during that game. So we didn't turn the ball over as many times the first couple of games, but man, the Fort Valley game, we had 2 fumbles and an interception, so we actually turned it over 3 times. And we can't do that. And in order for us to contend for the championship in this conference, you can't turn the ball over, and you got to create turnovers, which I thought we did defensively, and we have to score. I thought we did that defensively, because we have been the tops in the nation when it came to scoring defense last year, and and interception and return for touchdown. We had so many last year. I think we had 6 or 7 return defensive touchdowns last year. So we were definitely excited about that and kind of continue the trend the last 2 weeks, for us to pick 6 in Alcorn game and then turn around and fumble return for a touchdown for Valley game. So we kind of picked off where we left off last year.
Absolutely. This is the HBCU Report. Rob Calloway on the line with my good friend, Reginald Ruffin, head football coach of the Miles College Golden Bears. They are in action against Morehouse, the Maroon Tigers, in the SIAC showdown this weekend. Now, Coach, let's just go back to those first 2 games, if you will. You took on a team that has won the Eastern Division of the SWAC 3 times in a row. You're taking on a team in West Georgia who, if I'm not mistaken, they just played for the national championship, Division II national championship, right? So,
year before last year.
Right.
Sir.
So you're taking on 2 teams that bring a lot to the table, if you will. How do games like that prepare you for these in-conference games? And I have to assume that they make you better, right?
Well, you always want to play top opponents. And, I always say that's your measuring stick, and you open up with good competition. Of course, everybody, we play to win, but fortunately, that the ball don't fall in your court or in your corner. So, but, you see a measuring stick, how you matched up with them in certain aspect of that game, whether it was offense versus defense, defense versus offense, and then your kicking game. And I thought we took a lot out of that game, took a lot from that game. And our kids are understanding the importance of tough opponents, and understand the importance of doing the things the right way, and alignment and assignment, not turning the ball over and getting turnovers, not giving up big plays. And so we took a lot out of those two games and two top opponents. You turn around Alcorn, lose the last 30 seconds of that game to FIU, a Division I opponent. And then they turn around last week and lose to McNeese State the last second of that. So we played a tough opponent in Alcorn State. And then also you take West Georgia, and those guys being undefeated when they played Fort Valley, and then turn around and go over and play Delta State, and that came down to the last couple possessions for them to lose that game. So of a good Delta State team. So, we have a good measuring stick of two quality opponents that we open up with. And then you take Fort Valley, a tough opponent too. They just turned the ball over at times and stalled drives, but they're a tough opponent also.
Absolutely. Now, coming up, 5 o'clock Central kickoff. There's 6 o'clock on the East. Morehouse visits Miles College. Morehouse coming into this game 2-1 on the season. Their only loss of the season came at the hands of a SWAC opponent in Arkansas Pine Bluff, a 23-10 loss. When you look at this Morehouse team, how do you guys match up with them?
Well, a lot of speed. Offensively, they have a lot of speed. Great receivers. New offensive coordinator has done a great job. They scoring a lot of points. They may be leading the conference in scoring. A good offensive line. They do a lot of things offensively. To spread the ball around and spread you out and just attack, where you're weak at. And defensively, they moving around and stemming and, getting in position to really disrupt plays when they're blitzing. And so we have our work cut out for them. I think Coach Freeman's done a great job there at Morehouse, with the playoffs. And every year they, picked in the contention of the SIEC. And, if you talk about the SIEC, Morehouse will always be included and the team to watch when it comes to contending for the SIC title. So we have our work cut out for us. It's a big weekend. It's our first home game. We've been on the road the first 3 weeks. So it's a big game for us because we coming home to our home crowd and our fans, and it's going to be a great atmosphere.
He is Reginald Ruffin, head football coach of the Miles College Golden Bears. They host Morehouse College, 6 o'clock Eastern kickoff, 5 o'clock Central. Coach, thank you so much for joining us on the HBCU Report, and we look forward to talking to you later in the season.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
The HBCU experience lives here. The HBCU Report with Rob Calloway. We'll be right back.
I heard on the news about that 5-year-old who found his uncle's gun. The kid didn't know it was loaded.
I heard on the news about that 14-year-old girl who was bullied online. For like a year, she couldn't take it anymore, so she got her dad's gun from his nightstand.
I heard on the news about that guy who broke into someone's house, stole a gun from the hall closet.
He accidentally shot his cousin in the head.
She killed herself.
And later, killed the owner of the store he was trying to rob.
If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearms storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
HBCU sports fans, you finally have a voice. The HBCU experience lives here. This is the HBCU Report with Rob Calloway.
This is the HBCU Report. Rob Calloway here with you another Saturday morning. Thank you guys for tuning in to the show. And right now, we're being joined by a young man, and I did say young man, that I've known for like 30 plus years. A South Carolina State University alum, former kicker in the National Football League. He's now teaching kids the craft, the art of the kick with the Cedric Oglesby Kicking Academy. Cedric Oglesby joins us on the HBCU Report. First of all, Ced, thank you for joining us on the show.
Hi, glad to be here. Glad you have me.
Not a problem, man. So let's just get the backstory. I've been knowing you since elementary school. How did this whole kicking thing? How did you get involved with the whole kicking game?
Well, growing up, South DeKalb, had a soccer program at the South DeKalb YMCA back in the day, and my brothers played soccer, so since I was the youngest of three boys, I had to play the same sports they played. So I grew up playing at the South DeKalb Y, and they just so happened to have a good team that the coach wanted to stick with, and so I ended up playing with that team from about like 5 or 6 years old to probably like maybe 13 years old. A guy by the name of Dwayne Fisher. You don't find coaches like that anymore, but he coached us from like 4 or 5 years old to 13 years old. And so I had a soccer background. It just so happened to be growing up in that area that it was kind of a popular thing in that community. They kind of just transferred over. Later on, when I got in high school, ended up kicking for the football team. So that's kind of how it started.
So when you first started kicking, did you ever imagine that you would end up with such a lengthy career? I mean, collegiate and professional.
No, not really. I always wanted to play football, but I wanted to play receiver and corner. And my parents wouldn't let me play, so they held me out. So I was just playing in the neighborhood, two-hand touch, sideline bust, throw-up tackle. All the games you can play in the neighborhood, I played that. And so, yeah, I never really thought about doing it. I knew I could do it a little bit, but I never thought about really kicking. If I had to play football early, I probably would have played receiver or corner. But when I was in high school, so I was the cab. I was in PE one day and caught a pass, faked a couple guys out, ran and scored a touchdown. And just being silly, I put the ball down in the grass, stood it up in the tall grass, and kicked it through the goalpost. And I'm not sure if you remember, but there was a guy named Brian Monroe who was out there that day, and I ain't seen him since high school. But Brian suggested that I should come out for the football team. So I had about 10 people screaming at me for kicking the ball, and then one person, Brian, said, "Hey, you need to come out for the team, man. You can kick." So I said, "Oh yeah." I took his word for it, and then I went out and kicked. And I just was doing it just because it was something fun to do. Didn't really think that I would turn into much. I didn't even realize what I was getting myself into. That Southwest DeKalb High School had a tradition for kicking or anything at the time. I kind of discovered that after I started doing it, and that turned one thing went to another. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened for me. But college football was something that I realized probably later on, after I realized that there was a couple people that kicked before me that had gone to school and gotten scholarships. So I would say probably maybe around 11th grade was when I realized I could play college football. And NFL, I didn't even think about NFL until probably maybe around my junior year of college. I just went to college to get a degree is what my main goal was, not to play NFL.
These days when I talk to a lot of these HBCU coaches, I talk to them about the kick game because, sometimes I see these games and it's like that's the difference was having a kicker and not having a kicker. And you'll find, in the Division II schools like the CIAA and the SIAC, how some of the coaches really believe in special teams and some don't. And you could tell the ones that don't. I mean, and then when you start talking about SWAC MEAC, it seems like it's a little bit more emphasis put on the position. But for a young man, a young athlete, that's trying to find his way, and like I said, I know you have this Cedric Oglesby Kicking Academy. How would you, I guess, lure them into the position of a kicker? Because that's not like the most glamorous position.
Yeah, well, with the as of lately, the number one thing that you can kind of entice the parents into is with the concussion issues going on in football right now. Just a lot of parents don't want their kids to get concussions. I say, well, hey, you come and kick and punt. You get the same thing everybody else gets. Except for after practice, they go to the training room. We go home. So we don't have to go to the training room. So if we get any contact at all, it's every now and then, and it's your choice, really, a lot of times. But after your career is over with, you don't have as many issues and problems as other guys have to do that make contact on every play. You know what I mean? So concussions would be the number one thing I would say right now. And number two, I say, well, if you're a field goal kicker, you get to score. So most kickers that can kick and they're pretty decent are most of the times the leading scorers on the team. And if they play 4 years, they're usually the leading scorer, you know, in the top 10 of the whole career, you know, of all-time scorers of the school. So why not, you know, do something where you get your name called and you get to score points.